Hi everybody, it's the Baseball Head, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion. Your host, the Head. Welcome back to the Baseball Head, and hopefully you like this video and hit that subscribe. And a couple of things we haven't been here to recently. The Phillies lost. Phillies, yes, what a fairy tale ending. Ryan Keckering throwing the ball away, the home plate. Should have thrown the first with 2 outs, but not the most popular guy right now in Philadelphia. Also, the New York Yankees got sent packing. No surprise. I thought they would win Game 3 at Yankee Stadium, and then they would lose Game 4. That seems to be the pattern of the Yankees. But don't worry, Aaron Judge got his signature game, a game that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter for the New York Yankees. But elsewhere in the New York Mets world, as you know, they fired all the coaches. I mean, they really, they didn't want to say that, but they got rid of everybody, and now we're starting to hear some stories. This is not a good story. This is kind of sort of says how the players and the coaches were not on the same page. That is a major problem. You cannot have players and the coaches on different pages and completely different ideas. You don't even want to talk about it. Well, I have this article, and there was a podcast where Eric Chavez, the Mets' former hitting coach, had some interesting and not so interesting thoughts on Juan Soto. Now, I'm not too happy about this. It's a good thing they got him out of here, and it makes me wonder what kind of effect he's had on other players, in particular Brandon Nimmo. Eric Chavez is from SNY. Eric Chavez suggests Juan Soto be more aggressive at the plate during Slugger's first season with the Mets. Quote, Juan, he is a precision hitter. I wouldn't get him out of his comfort zone at all. Juan Soto's always been known for his patience at the plate. The star outfield put that on full display during his first season with the Mets, finishing with a league-high 127 walks and a nationally best 396 on-base percentage. She also would mention he also led the league in stolen bases, which is an amazing statistic. However, during the season, hitting coach Eric Chavez believes Soto could be even more productive if the 26-year-old tinkered with his approach. Oh boy. You don't make $750 million by changing your approach the following year. Chavez was a guest on Thursday's episode of The Foul Territory, was asked whether Soto could put up big offensive numbers if he was more aggressive at the plate and perhaps chase out of the strike zone more often. He revealed that he spoke with manager Carlos Mendoza about that very topic. Now, if you are a good teacher, you work and you try to give a lot of support to your student. You try to give a lot of support to whomever you are working with. Now, Soto is not a student per se. He is a master at this. And what you do is you try to reinforce the good things and not try to say, I'm going to talk about doing other things. You don't do that. Quote, there were times, and I'll be honest, there were times where myself and I even talked to Carlos about if we could get him to swing maybe 0-0 or some pitches he could do damage on early in counts. But Juan, he is a precision hitter. I wouldn't get him out of his comfort zone at all, Chavez said. But why even talking about it? Why trying to change a hitter that is a great hitter? Soto's first pitch swing rate dipped from last season with the Yankees at 22.5%. He also cut his chase rate down to an impressive 16.5%. All of that led to Soto finishing with a career-high 43 homers, 105 runs batted in. While the Mets decided to move on from Chavez last week, he did suggest one way they could get creative with Soto about getting him out of that comfort zone is by bumping him up to the top spot in the order. He's going to want to bat him leadoff. It's crazy. Soto has also been slotted there twice to this point in his big league career. Quote, Juan is so good at getting on base, Chavez said. There are times where things are going and you're in the middle of the lineup. Like Pete Alonso, we know Pete is going to chase. Pete's going to do damage. Juan can drive in 140 runs. But instead of doing that, where you're telling him to get out of his comfort zone, slide him into the leadoff spot. Yeah. He steals bases. He gets on base at a 40% clip. Don't have him get out of his comfort zone of what he likes to do, but you could be just as dynamic in the leadoff spot as if you could look at Shohei Ohtani and what he does. Without changing the player too much, just change where he hits in the batting lineup. I would mention. I think Ohtani batting leadoff is dumb too, to be honest with you. Because I want him to get on, to be up there with 2 men on in the first inning. Not to lead off a game, but a home run. I don't want to see that. And I don't want to see Juan Soto leading off a game with a home run, and the Mets lose 2-1 or 1-0 or 3-1, whatever it is. Stupid, You want him to have men on base. Ideally, in my opinion, the Mets should bat him third. Okay? But you can bat him second because he does score a lot of runs. He gets on base a lot. And he's actually not a bad base runner, and he's not slow. You don't steal 38 bases by being slow. Now, there is a reason why Chavez is unemployed. Okay? Because you see other players that are on this team, particularly Brandon Nimmo, whose approach completely changed. This was a guy that was able to take a lot of pitches, had a very high on-base percentage, and that has completely gone down over the last few years. To where this past year, was not very high. And his inability to be consistent, along with some of these other players, is the most disturbing thing. Now, the hitting coach is not nearly as important as the pitching coach on a baseball team. Okay? But a negative personality, a negative force could be a problem. Now, he did mention also in this interview about Jeremy Barnes, saying that he wasn't really a big fan of the assistant hitting coach. Now, if you don't remember, the first year that Eric Chavez was here was in 2022. He was the primary hitting coach. Then the following year, they put him in as the bench coach. That didn't work out. Okay, we know that. That didn't work out with Buck. And they brought in Jeremy Barnes to be the hitting coach. And that didn't work out well either. So last year, they went back to Chavez, the hitting coach. They brought in John Gibbons. They brought in Mendoza to be the manager. And Chavez became the hitting coach. And Barnes, they didn't want to lose him. I don't know why. They make a big deal out of that. They put him as assistant or like co-hitting coach or something like that. Now, they were able to work it out according to Chavez, but Chavez complained that it wasn't really a great situation. But like I said, you're starting to see why there's been sort of a little bit of a miscommunication between the player and between the coach, and that is a major problem. You knew stuff was going to come out. Once they started firing people, that these stories were going to pop up. It doesn't surprise me. But this was a disconnect of the coach. This is not a problem with the player, because Soto had a big year. Just you tell Soto, do what you got to do, and you basically say, with Soto is basically, how can I help you? Okay, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help you. Okay, so if you need me to watch something, I'll watch it. But otherwise, I'm going to leave you be, and that's it. And that's how he should have approached this from the very beginning. Instead, let's tanker you. Just save you, be more aggressive. Great hitters like Soto always get this kind of criticism. He doesn't swing the bat enough. Joey Votto was a pretty good example. People said the same thing about Joey Votto. He didn't swing the bat enough. He walks too much. Gets on base too much. He's got to swing the bat more. But that's not who they are as players. Juan Soto's a guy that works a count. He's very important. Like I said all year long, he was going to get better as the season went on, and he did. He got better and better and better. And he had a great September for the Mets. It wasn't his fault at all that the Mets did not get the postseason this year. The biggest problem, obviously, as you know, was the pitching. Mets had no length out of the starting rotation, and the acquisitions they made at the trade deadline were a disaster. Every player they brought in was terrible, absolutely disgustingly bad. Thankfully, hopefully they'll bring in some new people. But again, like I mentioned, also just to keep in mind, Mets have to have a backup plan in case there are problems next season going into the season if the club gets off to a slow start. You got to have a backup plan for who will be the next manager in case the team gets off to a slow start. So if you struggle in April and May, you have to have somebody in place in the organization that can take over in a pinch. Let's have to figure who that person is. Is it Andy Green, who's in the Mets front office, has managed in the past? Is it Carlos Beltran, who's in the Mets front office? Is it a guy like Willie Randolph? Do you bring Willie in to be the bench coach? You have to have an idea of who will be the backup plan in case something happens. But be that as it may, Mets have a lot of work this offseason. They have to figure out who they want to keep, who they don't want to keep. To me, it's a lot about getting rid of people here. And unfortunately, there are going to be people here that everyone likes, including myself, are going to be out of here. And they need to do that. The coaching was the big thing, because the first coach they had to get rid of was Hefner. Once they got him out of here, I was happy. That's the first big first step. Because you see with a coach, you never know what the approach is with a coach. Look at the approach of this coach, not the Brime. You see the kind of effect, a negative effect, can have on a player. And he got off to a rough start. Well, thank you for watching this video. Of course, please subscribe to Baseball Hut, and I'll see you later.